I knew that I couldn't, and I yielded to God, and I surrendered to Him. And I did. I told Him, I said, God, I know that you can heal her, but you don't have to. So whatever was going to happen, I was going to praise God regardless. And today she's 18 years old, almost 19 years old. I believe that because the law said that, women are being lied to through these incremental laws. Any law that still allows for children to be murdered is still wicked in God's eyes. God's word says, do not murder, and there are consequences to murdering someone. Several friends and I went to the Capitol Weekly this last legislative session to engage with legislators to abolish abortion. And I did hear over and over again the fear of criminalizing women. As a woman, we should not be a special class of people. We say we want equality, but yet we want to be the only class of people allowed to murder our children. And I don't understand how we can say that it's murder and then allow a certain class of society to go unpunished. We must be consistent, and we must defy the Supreme Court. We all see how they've continued to usurp their authority, and we've bowed down to them as though they are God. The Supreme Court is supposed to make judgments according to the Constitution, and when they don't, we should ignore them. The time is now, and it is urgent. As people of God, we must repent and turn to Christ with our whole heart. God's law is written on every man and woman's heart. Romans says that. And we might not know if we're not followers of Christ, just like when I was 17 years old. We might not know the emotional and the spiritual or the physical ramifications.
Thank you so much. Does the committee have any questions for the witness? Yes.
First, I want to thank you for having the strength and the courage. John Barry, ST30. I want to thank you for having the strength and the courage when you were a teenage mom to have your child. My question to you is, could we have done more? Was enough done to help you raise that child as a teenage mom?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Good job.
I have a lot I want to say.
You know, a little bit of time for an explanation real quick, real short, 15 seconds.
Well, I mean, I think, of course, our society can't. I am very grateful that my parents were very supportive, but I will say that I had so much fear to tell my dad that I did have the thought that I wanted to abort her. I remember that thought coming in because I thought my dad was going to kill me. And I knew that I couldn't live with myself. And when I told my dad I was pregnant, I said, I'm pregnant and I'm not having an abortion. And I knew that I had solidified that decision deep down inside of me. And my dad is so close with my daughter and his great-grandchildren. So sometimes we just have to push through the fear.
I do thank the witness, but would admonish the committee to stick to the rules we just adjusted.
Sorry. Thank you so much. We're going to defer a little bit from the three members or delegates we have on deck and bring up a fellow committee member from another committee of the Priorities Committee, Dr. Paul Shabbat, who's going to speak. Just that your SD number issue you to speak on delegate status.
Yeah, thank you, sir. My name is Paul Chabot, Senate District 8. I'm a delegate 2 doors down. I'm working on planks. So thank you for the work that you're doing and squeezing me in. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, naval officer, husband, father. Like many of you, just ordinary average folks, love our country. I'd like to ask for you to please reject any efforts to decriminalize, legalize marijuana in Texas. I moved here from California and saw the mess that it created with the George Soros money starting in 1996. Turned our state from red to blue. Same thing happened in Colorado. We've got a Colorado mom out here at the table. We're telling you about what happened to her state. What happens with this money when we begin to decriminalize and open up pot stores and other things, we might think it's about personal freedom, but it's not. Drug addiction, and I'm a former drug addict, really destroys lives, starting with kids in the family core. But what will happen here is these marijuana stores will begin to set up like they do in California, Colorado, and they collect money. They create huge political action committees. bankrolling millions of dollars that will then come in and defeat all of our Republican and conservative candidates. It's already happening. The money that came in that supported Beto, huge marijuana money. So we got to watch out for that. We lost Pete Sessions' race in Dallas. His opponent was hugely funded by the marijuana movement. I encourage you to go to Open Secrets if you want to look at where money comes and goes in the marijuana movement. It's huge. This is not just about marijuana, folks. It's about this overall George Soros open society view of life, which is not compatible with us as conservatives. So watch out for the medical marijuana to marijuana legalization and decriminalization, and they're going to go to needle exchange and full-out legalization. And that's what they're doing now in San Francisco, needle exchange, Oregon, and other places. It's about our kids, it's about our families, and look, I don't get paid to do this stuff, but I've experienced it in law enforcement. I've experienced it as a father. I saw my state of California go from bright red Reagan to deep blue Gavin Newsom. And you look at the unions and they control these radical agenda items. We don't need to carry the Democrats' water on any of these planks. So I strongly encourage you to reject any marijuana legalization, decriminalization, whatever it may be. Please remove it. Let the Democrats carry that. We're going to, I think, carry the water. I got 1 minute left. Also like to maybe briefly address as a law enforcement officer, having been to the funerals of law enforcement officers, that there's an issue about qualified immunity. And oh, by the way, the marijuana plank, we were able to strike it down in our other committee. Removed it completely. It was there last time, it's gone now. So it's a no. Qualified immunity, ladies and gentlemen, protects our law enforcement officers. We are already having a hard time recruiting and retaining them. You'll lose your reserve officers that don't get paid. Yes, cops make mistakes, but they're held accountable. You can't expect them at the absolute second to always make the absolute right and wrong decision, but we're having a hard time. So 411% increase in retirements out of New York State alone across this country. Please think about the bills that we're proposing, and they're not mirroring what the Democrats are trying to do. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you and all the committee members who work. Have a nice day.
Does the committee have any clarifying questions for the witness? Nope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The committee now calls Jill Robbins. Please state your SD number, delegate status, issue you intend to speak on, and you have 3 minutes.
SD 24, Jill Robbins, and I'm speaking on abolitionism versus incrementalism. As a woman who sought out an abortion at age 17, I want to speak for all the women in this country who regret their choice. I regret I had a choice. Why was I given a choice? To kill my child. That's what incremental laws regulating abortion do. They give us permission to kill. Incremental laws concerning abortion still tell women it's okay to kill in certain situations. Last session, I sat in a room with 40 women at the Capitol telling their stories about how abortion had affected their lives negatively. At the end of this session, the question was asked, if abortion had been illegal, would you still have sought one out in another way? To a woman, they all said, never. They would not even have sought an abortion. And then in regards to women being in need of education or being ignorant of what they're doing, therefore not holding women accountable for abortion, I would remind all of us that God's word tells us, and this has just been said, in Romans 1:18 through 32 and Romans 2:14 through 16, that his law is written on our hearts and that we are without excuse. We may not know the mental, spiritual, or physical consequences of abortion, but we do know, according to the word of God, that murder is wrong. As the gentleman on Zoom said earlier, let's shoot for the moon, and I add to that and see what God will do to abolish abortion in Texas if we will just obey God rather than our lawless Supreme Court. Legislative process or not, God will honor obedience. Thank you.
Committee have any clarifying questions for the witness? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The committee now calls Livia Sappington, and on deck is Jackson Milton, Suzette Griffin, and Mike Belsick. member delegate status and the issue you can speak on. You have 3 minutes.
Livia Steppington, delegate SD 29. I'm going to be speaking for adopting individual rights and freedom as RPT legislative priority. I just want to say that if you do not pay attention to the issue I'm bringing up here today, please remember that we will not have to worry about any of the other issues because they will be decided for us in the future. So I am a natural citizen for over 40 years, an immigrant from a socialist country, formerly socialist country, having escaped by risking my life and the life of my unborn child. I had no education and I could not speak English. This amazing country has given me opportunity to have a great and productive and most of all free life. Preserving the freedom of Americans, the free speech and freedom of assembly should be a priority of every state. Without individual rights, the doors will be wide open to tyranny. Republicans have been unwilling to take the threat of socialism seriously. There are no serious discussions about it in Congress. There are no prominent politicians warning about the dangers. There are no challenges to the false promises of democratic socialism. I started talking about the dangers of socialism on the rise in the United States over 10 years ago. I was called an alarmist. As a writer, I published many articles. Although I was able to reach hundreds and sometimes even thousands of like-minded people, it was not enough. I was speaking to the choir. Most Americans simply cannot imagine that their freedom could ever be taken. Most Americans simply do not understand the determination, long-term planning, and the unrelenting pursuit by the communists who have infiltrated America. Most Americans do not know about Saul Alinsky and barely know who Karl Marx was. Most Americans have never heard of the Communist Manifesto and Marx's prescription of what it takes to bring down societies and for the masses to accept socialism, which is the prelude to communism. Here are just some of the subjects promoted by Marx: abolition of the family, the individual must be swept out of the way and made impossible, must contradict all past historical experiences. In communist society, the present dominates the past. Abolish countries. Working men have no country. Marx prescribed that the only way to bring about a new system of government is to completely destroy the old one. Make no mistake, what is going on in the United States of America today is exactly the implementation of that process. The socialist communists, having fully integrated the Democratic Party, now have achieved a perfect storm. They created havoc over racial issues, starting with Barack Obama.
Time. I'm sorry, ma'am. Does the committee have any clarifying questions? Hold on. Work is fine. Yes, Ms. Lewis.
Janera Lewis, SD 27. Did you pass this out?
Yes, I did.
Is that what you were reading from?
Exactly, every conditions, but not some of the things that could be on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
so much.
Any other clarifying questions? Thank you so much.
We're up to 22 votes. I would encourage members to finish up your balloting.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to take over for a minute so I can finish up mine?
Sure.
That'd be great. The next delegate is Jackson.
Thank you, committee members, for allowing me to testify today. My name is Jackson Milton, and I'm a delegate in SD 17, and I'm here to talk about the Texas Abolition Strategy. I know this is an ongoing discussion amongst all of you, but I want to clear up some concerns regarding the courts on this issue, and in particular, Chief Justice Roberts. As many, if not all of you know, Chief Justice Roberts sided with the liberals to invalidate a Louisiana pro-life law requiring admitting privileges. And that was just 4 years previously, he sided with the conservatives on the court to uphold Texas's admitting privileges law, but unfortunately that was struck down by the liberals and Justice Kennedy in that case. So it appears.
Excuse me just 1 second, stop the clock. If the speakers could get a little bit closer to the microphone, they're having a little bit of trouble hearing.
All about
There you go.
Okay, sorry. Right, okay, so it appears like he switched his vote in that case, and suddenly he's now opposed to us on the abortion issue. And Justice Roberts is keenly aware that the court is under a microscope by the public, and so he clarified that in his concurrence in the June medical case 2 weeks ago. He said, "I join the dissent in Whole Woman's Health and continue to believe that the case was wrongly decided. The question today, however, is not whether Whole Woman's Health is right or wrong, but whether to adhere to it in deciding the present case. Both Louisiana and the providers agree that the undue burden standard announced in Casey provides the appropriate framework to analyze Louisiana's law. Neither party has asked us to reassess the constitutional validity of that standard." So essentially, the problem was Louisiana, in defending their law, told the courts, assume Roe is correct in this case. Assume Casey and Hellerstedt are correct in this case. Assume your abortion jurisprudence is correct in this case. Don't reassess it. Don't overturn it or reverse it. Apply it in this case. So Justice Roberts said, okay, I'll apply it in this case. And he ended up invalidating the law with the liberals because he viewed it as identical with Texas's law. So Chief Justice Roberts basically said, if you want us to overturn our standards, you have to ask us to. The second question deals with the two standards, or the two interests states can use to pass pro-life laws. The last time a state asserted an interest, or a bill that asserted an interest in preborn life, and that bill went to the Supreme Court, was the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act, which was upheld by the Supreme Court and Justice Roberts in 2007. And that's exactly what Texas abolition strategy will do. The last point I want to acknowledge is regarding the three policies in the bill with staggered enforcement dates. The reason that exists is because we can see how each one is enforceable before moving on to the next. And if the Texas House were to turn blue, we have a set strategy already in place, ready to go. And I think it's our duty. We're in the Fifth Circuit, the most conservative circuit court in the nation. We have a moral responsibility to lead the front and lead the fight in overturning Roe versus Wade, and we shouldn't abdicate that responsibility. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next up is Sue Griffin, SD 11. Feel free to justify.
Take it off. I'm more comfortable holding it. Suzette Griffin, SD11. I'm a delegate, and I am here to speak to you about abolishing abortion in Texas. And of course, I lost my screen. I'm encouraged by the level of passion for the pro-life issue that I see in this committee, and I understand the issues that you're having about which path to follow. As a very disinterested young woman, I watched my generation usher in this culture of death. And my prayer is that my generation now will get rid of this horror, finally. It's a worldwide horror, but we can do what we can do in the U.S. to get rid of this. Incrementalism has been legislated since Roe versus Wade was decreed, the law of the land. And the Guttmacher Institute right now is showing that we have aborted, we have killed over 63 million babies in this country since Roe versus Wade. Incrementalism is allowing babies to be killed. The last two RPT conventions have featured abolish abortion on the legislative priorities. HB 948 and 896 were both abolish abortion in Texas acts. 948 was assigned to the House State Affairs Committee and was denied a hearing by the chairman. 896 at the next session was assigned to the Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence Committee, which was chaired by a Republican also. Byron Cook, a Republican, chaired the first time, and Jeff Leach, a Republican, chaired the second time. And although hundreds of people showed up to testify for the bill, it died in committee. Both of these committees were chaired by Republicans, and it has been kept from a floor vote. We know that that provides cover for those who claim to be pro-life but do not want to make it a public vote. The RPT is the largest political voice with such a large contingent being seriously pro-life. And yet, we have yet to create that same passion and courage in the men and women who have ridden the Republican brand to elected office. The voice of the huge delegation to the RPT convention must be directed at those Republicans. I encourage you to continue that very loud voice for abolishing abortion in Texas by keeping it number one on the legislative priorities.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next up is Mike Belson, and after that will be David Sims.
Hello, my name is Mike Belsick. I'm from Senate District 24 and a delegate from Gillespie County. Normally my passion is gun rights, constitutional carry. We all heard yesterday a very passionate young man that warned us that a tsunami of progressivism is about to wash over us if we're not careful about it and do something. As such, I'm here today to recommend a priority for not just public schools, but school choice. We are seeing schools change as we have been ignoring the situation. I have 2 children, both in their 30s, so I'm not worried about it. But we are seeing today young people, those that were protesting across the nation, that know nothing of history. They are trying to tear down and deface statues, some of them like General Ulysses S. Grant, that was the only general in the Union Army that could defeat Lee and end slavery, yet they're defacing Grant. They know nothing of history. So I'm encouraging you to promote school choice so that parents have an opportunity to pick the best schools that represent their values. And with that, I'll just be short and say thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Next up, we have Speaker Joe Palmer from one of the other committees. I'd like to hear.
Thank you very much, members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Joe Palmer, SD12. I serve on the organizational committee, and I'm scheduled to speak earlier, but thank you for giving me the opportunity now. I was on the resolutions committee in my SD, and I can tell you that one of the resolutions that passed overwhelmingly was to abolish property tax, abolish the system, because it is arguably the most egregious and most damaging system of taxation that we have in this country. I'd like to tell you about why this is my main issue. I do have others, as we have many. We're all passionate. My aunt lives in the house that she was born in. She pays $6,000 a year to live in that house. It's a wood siding house, it has linoleum in the kitchen, no stainless appliances, no landscaping. Incidentally, my grandparents bought that house in 1967, and they paid $6,000 for it when they purchased it. Now it costs that much every year just to live in it. I've protested on her behalf. We were victorious one time, and as you probably know, your prize for winning is they hammer you the next year. I've passed out a handout for you. I've got 2 handouts in one. That's answers to questions that we took up in the subcommittee, for which I'm grateful. I'd like to just paint a picture for you. If I bought 10 acres in, let's just say, Mansfield ISD, and I built a $100 million mansion on that piece of property. Conceivably, my property tax bill could go up by $2 or $3 million because of the improvement on that land. The question I have is, do the needs, the so-called needs or wants of the local school district, do they go up by $1 million the moment that house hits the tax rolls? I would submit to you, no. If I were to take a wrecking ball and knock that $100 million mansion down the following year, that would decrease my property tax bill by $2 or $3 million. Would the needs or wants of the county hospital, the school district, or the city, would they go down by $1 million or two? It makes absolutely no sense. There is no logical connection between the value of your property and the so-called needs or wants of a local taxing entity, and it must stop. And the obvious initial questions are, well, how are you going to replace it? What are you going to do to replace that funding to satisfy the local taxing entities? All taxes are bad. That's the war. But I would submit to you that this body, has the luxury of not having to determine the how, the nuts and bolts. Your option, your power here is to dictate and articulate the what, the vision. When JFK said, I want to put somebody on the moon, or put a man on the moon, he didn't stand there for 5 hours and say, and by the way, here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to take money from here and here and do it this way. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, right? It starts with a vision. It starts from a place of righteousness. I ask you to consider this priority very closely. Thank you very much. And I'm also in support of Stuart Knowlton's proposition to disclosure on sales price. That would eliminate the appraisal districts and the appraisal review process. And don't ever argue with somebody with the letters K-N-O-W in their last name. I walk away realizing that they were right. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Joe, what would be your, Jesse Taylor, SD10, what would be your resolution to it also?
The resolution is in the handout that I passed out. That's a great question. In 2016, it was a legislative priority to eliminate the property tax system or abolish the property tax system and replace with a consumption tax. And this is a very important point because people think we want to sneak an income tax in there or something. We don't want an income tax. We believe that a consumption tax is much more fair because with a consumption tax, similar to a sales tax, you have the control over how much tax you spend in a year or at any moment, right? When you buy
Point of
something,
order, I believe Madeline is here, SD5. I believe we're supposed to have answers that are yes or no.
and the question was, do I have language? The answer is yes. I have lots of language for the appraisal district, but I won't share that today.
Genera Lewis, SB 27, is this your language right here?
Yes, ma'am. That's one proposal that you're welcome to consider. We ask you humbly to consider. If you have an improvement, I'm sure there are.
Well, I would change it from 2016 to 2020.
Well, there's also 28. Well,
In 2018, so are there multiples in here?
and the reason that we put the year 2016 in that document, 2018, is we're trying to establish that the position of the party in the last two platforms has been to eliminate. And the most recent one was with a passage rate of 90.75% of the delegates wanted to eliminate.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
One more yes or no question. Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next up is David Sims.
Thank you, Chairman of the Committee. I am David Sims, DJ. I'm a delegate from Fort Worth, SD9. I'm ordained as a Baptist pastor. I'm a father of 9. I'm an abolitionist, spending at least a couple hours with my family most Saturdays at the Fort Worth abortion mill, preaching the gospel, offering help, and pleading with the mothers for the lives of their children. There are 2 strategies to fight abortion that have been presented here. In that light, let's talk about Roe versus Wade. The Roe case began right here in Texas. It was a Texas law that was in dispute. In footnote 54 of the Roe decision, Justice Blackmun writes, There are other inconsistencies between 14th Amendment status and the typical abortion statute. It has already been pointed out that in Texas, the woman is not a principal or an accomplice with respect to an abortion upon her. If the fetus is a person, why is the woman not a principal or an accomplice? Further, the penalty for criminal abortion specified by Article 1195 is significantly less than the maximum penalty for murder prescribed by Article 1257 of the Texas Penal Code. If the fetus is a person, may the penalties be different? What Blackman is saying is that the court rejected the claim that preborn children deserve legal protection because our pro-life laws didn't treat the preborn as fully human. He's saying that if the state of Texas actually thought preborn children were fully human, we would treat abortion as fully murder. And if the state of Texas wasn't even treating the preborn as fully human, why should the court? He's saying that if we actually thought that preborn were human beings, we would give abortion as more than a slap on the wrist, and we wouldn't let the mothers and fathers who do this to their children off scot-free. The fact that we didn't consistently treat abortion like murder back then is part of why abortion never became legal. Compromise undercuts us legally, and even more importantly, it undercuts us morally. Compromise with evil is what got us here, and more compromise with evil is not going to get us out. Chief Justice John Roberts has made that abundantly clear, as we saw in the recent June Medical Services versus Russo decision. Roberts is drifting toward leftism and an unwavering devotion to scare decisis when it comes to abortion. The Supreme Court isn't even going to allow the weakest of abortion regulations to stand. It was a Republican-appointed majority court who gave us Roe versus Wade. It was an 8-1 Republican-appointed majority court who gave us Casey versus Planned Parenthood. We've got to stop with the strategy of begging the Supreme Court to allow us to compromise with evil. It's unprincipled. It clearly isn't working. It's time to stand firmly on God's word, on the Constitution, and provide equal protection of the laws against murder to preborn children. It's time to abolish abortion.
Rich Diaz, SD9. David, I just want to thank you for being here, especially for taking your 9 kids out there. I enjoy watching the pictures on Facebook that you put up and see what you do.
Members will limit their testimony to yes or no questions.
I could have put one in there, but I did want to congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a quick show of hands? I've got, thank you, witness. Have a quick show of hands. Do we have anybody in the room or Paul offline who has not voted at this point? I've got 28 votes in, but I think we've got a couple of absent as well. Do we have anybody that is, oh, we got one left. Okay, we'll take at least the one more witness then while Aaron finishes.
Right, next is Swin Gaiman, SD2.
Is it Sunan? S-U-E-N-N?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, I'm Sunan Gabber, and I'm from, can you hear me or?
Yes.
No.
Or you can hold it.
I'm Sunan Gabber, and I'm from District 2. And I just want to say thank y'all so much for doing this. I don't know how I could possibly do this.
Are you a delegate?
Pardon?
Are you a delegate or?
Yes, I'm a delegate. Did I not say that? Okay. I'm delegate from Senate District 2, Sunan Gabber. Anyway, I don't know how y'all are doing this. This is amazing that you have so much responsibility. I am, going to make mine a little shorter than everybody else. I am not for TAS, and I am for true abolishing abortion. I have an adopted daughter, and I wouldn't have her if she'd been aborted. I do think that it is our duty to defend the unborn child, and that it begins at conception, because we are fearfully and marvelously made. And I think we're losing our humanity because we're not valuing the helpless that cannot defend themselves. And I think that's a disgrace to us for not doing this. We will not have a quiet and a peaceful life unless we do our duty and abolish abortion in Texas. As the innocent blood of Abel cried out for vengeance, so are the blood of these children crying out for us to take action to protect them, because we're not doing that. And I would just like to tell y'all to take action and fear God. I'm out there every week trying to save these children, and it's sickening to see these children be murdered. Thank you.
Any questions for the witness? Mr. Haas? Oh, I thought you were signaling. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
McDonald? Chrissy McDonald? Grace. Please state your SD number, delegate status, and issue you can speak on. You have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, my name is Grace McDonald. I'm a delegate for SD 14. I'm here to speak on the abolition and plank. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, you have heard from people far more eloquent than me. All I want to say is that during the hearing, the only hearing that we got for HB 896, there were so many people testifying for the bill that they were there until 3 in the morning. We did not get a vote, but we got evidence. The people of Texas want this abolished. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, this must remain a legislative priority. Thank you for your time.
Does any member of the committee have questions for the witness? Thank you so much. Mr. Chair? The committee now calls Jorge Lavender. Please state your SD number, issue, you can speak on your delegate status.
Jorge Lavender, SD9. I'd like to talk about the Sandra Bland Act.
Please speak up a little bit.
Jorge Landivar, SD9. I'd like to talk about the Sandra Bland Act. As we've seen over the year, our judicial system and our criminal justice system has a lot of problems. Some of these problems are people getting out that should not be out. Some of these problems are many other things, but I want to focus on one little one that I think we can pass. And that is, if a crime does not have actual jail time associated with the penalty, you should not be able to go to jail for that crime. I have a friend on the Rules Committee who was pulled over because the police officer said she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Turns out she was. So instead, he asked her for her driver's license. She handed it to him, and it was expired. Yeah, it was expired. He looked at it. Well, it's a crime in Texas to drive with an expired driver's license, right? Usually, it's like a $10 fine, and you go to the judge, and when you get the new one, and it's not a big deal, and everything's fine. You just want to make sure you're having a license and you're safe to drive. But she angered the cop, so he threw her in jail. This being a small town, and it was over the weekend, so she spent an entire weekend in jail before she could be arraigned. Once there was actually a court, and the judge said, "Okay, this is kind of weird, but okay, sure. Now you can go out. There's no really bail or anything for a. Sorry, there was bail in her case. She had to pay $500 bail, which was actually more than the fine would have been. So she got out. Eventually, she went back, and she got her traffic ticket. This sort of thing ended up costing her her children. She was in the middle of a custody battle, and she lost her children because her husband was like, well, she can't keep herself out of jail. Well, yeah, she went to jail. So she lost her kids. You see this sort of thing happening more and more when somebody gets upset, somebody had a bad day. Maybe the person was rude to the police officer. Maybe the police officer had a bad day. This shouldn't happen. If a crime doesn't actually have punishment of jail time, then the person shouldn't go to jail. There's other ways to deal with people who are active dangers, who are big disruptions. There's other things involved we can handle. We just don't need to send them to jail for minor crimes that are, in a lot of states, not even crimes. Traffic tickets are not crimes in most states. In most states, it's a civil penalty without actually being in the criminal system. Here it is a crime, but it's considered a Class C without any jail time. Thank you.
Committee have any questions? Yes, Mr. Gaspar.
Jonathan Gaspar, SD12, just a point of clarification, because this is the second delegate who's mentioned the Sandra Bland law. The wording's actually not in any, or the principle's there, the wording's not, so if anybody's not clear on what they're talking about, it's the due process plank. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. It's the due process plank that these delegates are testifying to. Thank you.
Any other delegate? Yes, sir.
Troy Jackson, SD23. Would you be willing to share your thoughts, not here in this setting, just yes or no answer? Would you be willing to share the information on what you would like to see specifically with regards to your request today?
Yes, sir.
One last question? Thank you so much. Mr. Chair? Yes, before we proceed, I'd like a show of hands from the gallery. How many of you are already signed up and have not yet testified? Is there anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it looks like. Okay. Yes, sir.
I have 4 names on the list that I have here and present, to be on the table outside.
Okay, why don't you go get that list since the people are in here. I am hesitant, after they've waited patiently, to completely shut it off with just a few left. However, we do need to get on with committee business. I would entertain a further restriction of the time limits, which I think might allow both, where we could get our business done and allow these witnesses to testify. And this is also very common in platform legislative priority committee history.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Jonathan Gaspar, SD12, just a suggestion, is possibly only allowing the speakers who are in the room right now to testify before cutting off testimony and letting us do our business.
That was my intent. Just the ones that raised their hands just then. But with a shorter time limit.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we shorten the time that the delegates are allowed to speak to 2 minutes.
Okay, so that would take us from 3 minutes to 2 minutes.
Correct.
Okay.
And
There's
that
7 of us, so-
and that there would be no questions.
and no questions. So we're looking at about 15 minutes more to handle everybody that's in the room. Okay? Yes, sir, Rich?
I would support no questions, but I'd like to keep it at 3 minutes. I've been in situations trying to get any point across in 2 minutes. It makes a big difference to me, so. Can we make that change?
Can we separate the question then? So we'll have a vote on going to 2 minutes and a separate vote to
Move to divide the question.
move to divide the question. Okay? Questions divided? Yes, John?
Will you accept it as a motion to speak against that as well, or is there any further?
No, go ahead.
I like the motion against it too, because only 7 speakers, we're literally going to be talking about 7 minutes here.
If we adopt the no question.
Yeah, but so it's not enough time, I think we have enough time to qualify 7 speakers at the current rules.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Terry Hart. Some of us have SRC meeting coming up here real quick, and we need to get the business down the road.
Okay. Ready to vote? We're voting first on going from 3 to 2 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nays, nays, oh.
Point of order.
Who's this?
That was a joke, point of order.
Thank you, Paul. You are communicating. Scared our secretary. Now we're any discussion, any further discussion on the second part of that question to go to no questions of the witnesses. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, okay. Call the remaining 7 witnesses that were in the room, please.
Okay, I have a list here with 5 names on it, so I'm missing 2. The last batch is Justin Kinner, Jonathan Cody, Kevin Witt, Tracy
can we get a list?
Yeah, go get that list outside, please. On deck is Justin Keener. You may proceed, sir.
Justin Keener, SD 14. I'm here to speak in favor of bail and Sandra Bland, or due process, however you call it. I'm holding in my hand a picture of DPS trooper Damon Allen, who was killed on Thanksgiving Day in 2017. He pulled over an individual who had been released on bail, when the judge did not know that this individual was a danger to society. He then killed Trooper Allen. I'll also share with you, since 2018, more than 30 people have been murdered in this community by individuals who were released on bail. Now, why this is an important issue is because the term bail reform means different things to different people. To liberals, it means let everyone out. To conservatives, it means if you are a danger to society or you're at risk of not showing up for your court date, you need to be kept in jail. Okay? Two very different meanings of bail reform. As conservatives, we support public safety first. If you're a threat to society, you stay in jail awaiting a court appearance. That's what this plank would do, and so I encourage you to support it. Secondly, on Sandra Bland, that's another, you heard the individual speak before, no arrest if the offense is not a jailable offense. This makes common sense. There's provisions within the legislation that Chairman James White authored last session, whereby if someone is still a threat to society, if the cop thinks, you know what, this person needs to be protected from society, they can still be arrested. This is not a blanket prohibition. It's one that makes common sense, public safety first. But we don't need people who are arrested when, even if they're found guilty, they're not going to go to jail. There's other ways to deal with them, and that's why I support it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. No questions. The committee calls Jonathan Covey. Please state your SE delegate status and issue and speak on 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jonathan Covey, SD5. I'm a delegate. I'm also policy director for Texas Values. We're the largest organization for faith, family, and freedom in the state of Texas. We have over 100,000 supporters in all 254 counties. I've spoken to many of you several times already about religious freedom. I'm here as a resource. I don't want to take any more of your time, but we would love to see religious freedom priority be in the top 15, especially with regards to preemption of non-discrimination ordinances, things like that. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll let someone else come up. Thank you.
Committee calls Kevin Witt. Please state your SD delegate status and the issue you speak on. The issue you speak on.
My name is Kevin Witt, SD8. I am a delegate, and I'm speaking on children and gender. I also am the assistant director for Mass Resistance Texas. In this state, we have a form of legal child abuse happening. And it's a form of legal child abuse that most people are not even aware of. And that is pediatric gender clinics. There are several all over the state. There's one in Dallas, Houston, and Austin that I know of. And who knows how many more. And this is becoming a big thing in the society that we live in. I myself used to be transsexual. I lived for 20 years as a transsexual woman. And I know where that life leads, and it is not a life that anybody would like for their kids to be a part of. And for someone to say that their child at 5 years old can determine their gender identity and take them to a pediatric gender clinic to go get hormones or get a sex change or whatever, that is not okay. If you cannot drink alcohol in this country until you're 21 or even buy cigarettes, you definitely cannot choose what gender you want to be at 5 years old. And so I think that this needs to be a #1 priority within the Republican Party. We need to take a stance as a party against this And we need to also make sure within this next legislative session that a bill gets passed to make these types of clinics illegal in the state. Because this is nothing more than a legal form of child abuse. Taking kids and giving them hormones when they're 8, getting them prepared to have a sex change at 15. Jeff Younger's child, that's what he was getting prepared to do. And this is not okay. And like I said, after living that lifestyle myself, I know that lifestyle led to drugs, alcohol, I even was a prostitute. And thank God that I found Jesus Christ 6 years ago, and I came out of that lifestyle. And I'm here to tell you that people and anyone can change from homosexuality and even transsexuality through Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ can do anything if you are willing. Thank you.
Very powerful testimony. The committee calls Tracy Shannon.
Tracy Shannon, SD4 delegate. I'm the Texas Director of Mass Resistance, and I will be speaking on gender transition of minors. I think we need to make it a legislative priority in this next session to eliminate this practice in the state of Texas. The impersonation of the opposite sex, vital hormones, and surgery does not resolve disordered thinking. In the state of Texas, we have over 500 kids being treated in gender clinics now. Over 85% of children who experience gender dysphoria will experience it resolving after puberty. The children will experience irreversible changes and adverse health effects from the treatments. Children can't understand the lifelong consequences of taking hormone blockers and hormones, plus the irreversible surgeries that they'll undergo when they're allowed. And some children have had double mastectomies as young as 12 years old. Therapists have been exposed, encouraging transitions, coaching parents and youth to make claims of suicidal ideation to get fast-track approval for gender transition. The children become lifelong patients. There's been a 400% increase in the last few years in just female transitions in the United States. In the United Kingdom, it's been over 4,000%. This is because of the influence in our media and our schools, and we need to stop that. We don't want to become the UK and have 400% increase in young females having transitions and mutilating their healthy body tissues. Also growing are the number of detransitioners. Those are people who switch back to their biological gender because they have regrets. Parents are at the urging of therapists, are involving their children in this billion-dollar industry. And parents are encouraged to do things like put something like this. This is for 3 to 8-year-olds, a tiny penis, put in girls' underwear, little girls' underwear, to send them off to school. We need to stop sending the message to children that they need to put something in their panties or add something onto their body to be okay and to be a whole person. That's not what we want to do in Texas. Let's not be part of this perversion. Thank you very much.
The committee calls Faith Usty.
How many are left of the 7?
2 more.
2 more. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Faith Bessie, SD10. I am a delegate. I'm here to speak to you about the no jail for non-jailables. I believe you have it under due process. So, to give a little bit of background on what it actually is, under current Texas statute, an officer may arrest and jail an individual for a fine-only offense committed within his view with the only two exceptions being speeding and open container. Fine-only offenses are considered minor infractions, such as a broken taillight, failure to signal, 1,000 feet before a turn, and rolling through stops when to name a few. In 2001, when these arrest powers were challenged and taken to the United States Supreme Court in Atwater versus Vistalago, the majority opinion agreed that because the statute is clear in stating these things, that the officer can and does have the authority to arrest and exercise those arrest powers without a warrant from the judge. The dissenting opinion in that case stated that a broad range of conduct falls into the category of fine-only misdemeanors. Such unbounded discretion to arrest carries with it grave potential for abuse. Fast forward to 2020, that we have an epidemic. This affects tens of thousands of Texans. Every day, we have people in jail for fine-only offenses. And what I'm asking this committee to do is to make this a legislative priority, not just because of the number of people it affects, but also because it did pass in the House and the legislature last session before the Democrats killed it. It was brought by a Republican. President Trump is leading on criminal justice reform, and we as a party can take the Democrat narrative away from them. They are playing politics with criminal justice reform, and we can actually move the ball and help people and do the right thing. So that's what I would ask of this committee. Thank you.
The committee now calls Mr. Louis Larada.
And there was a bit of a mess up administratively, so we still have two left.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Luis Larota from SD 15. I'm also a candidate for House District 148. I'm here standing before you in support of due process because as many people have come forward today, there are many issues that are important. And to me, what sets Republicans apart from Democrats is we protect life, liberty, and property. And there's a reason we do that. I mean, there's passionate arguments for protecting life, and we have to protect it at every stage. And we have to protect it when it's most threatened, even if it's at the hands of our very own government officials. And that's what the Sandra Bland Act is. It's supporting people that have no business being in jail. It's putting people that have no criminal record or don't have a propensity to be criminals into the criminal justice system unnecessarily. So the House, the legislature has moved on this, President Trump has moved on this. I urge you all to consider due process as a top priority, as well as the civil asset forfeiture. As many of you may have already known, civil asset forfeiture involves the preemptive taking of property without actual charges being pressed or even convictions being made. About 70% of that property remains in the government's hand and is never returned to people. So in effect, we have to protect property, we have to protect life, and we have to make that the Republicans' platform always and forever. We will stand apart from Democrats if we stand in front of Democrats and tell them about their hypocrisy, because that's what Democrats do. They'll stand by something when it's convenient, but when it comes time to vote, they do not stand by any of it. So let's differentiate ourselves. We need Texas to be a victory for Republicans, not just outside the cities. We need victories inside the cities. And this will help people like me in our districts that are challenged by criminal justice gain a foothold. Thank you very much.
Committee calls Mr. Derek Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Derek Cohen, delegate from SD 14. I'm here to speak in support of both bail and the due process provision. It's ironic that we're here in Harris County currently. Harris County actually had their bail system thrown out at the behest of a lawsuit brought by the ACLU. We've seen that same exact lawsuit going on in Dallas and in Galveston County. And so what we see going on, not just here in Texas, but around the country, is that left-leaning organizations are actually completely upending the system of bail that we have in favor of a pretty much get-out-of-jail-free card. And, while we do pride ourselves on innocent until proven guilty, making sure that we protect public safety even in the pendency of a trial, none of those values are being respected in any of these judicial promulgated systems of bail that we see both here, Dallas, Galveston, and so on. And so we saw a great bipartisan push on this. And, even the governor had thrown his support behind this, specifically after Trooper Allen was slain, into actually making sure that these judges, these liberal judges often in these municipalities, are forced to look at the actual danger to community that these people pose. In other words, they are informed not just by an arrest affidavit, they are informed by criminal history, their likelihood of flight, their likelihood of violent reoffense, all these things that factor into whether or not a person is a safe release. That tends to get ignored purposefully, I would argue, in these jurisdictions. So that is why I'm in support of having a risk-based bail system, just alongside 95% of the Republicans here in the state, as we saw back in March. Also here in support of the due process provision. I worked with Chairman White on this particular provision before it was basically killed in the shadows by Contra Navarro, who this body is familiar with his work on the Second Amendment. This is essentially a matter of fundamental liberty. Why should we be able to have a system, or a system which is possible, where someone can be jailed for not just days, but weeks, where even somebody who is found fully guilty of that which they are charged, that penalty does not carry 1 minute of jail time. And so there are other ways to think of it. Think of the ways we do traffic offenses. That's essentially how this would work for something like failing to change lanes. And so this does not handicap law enforcement's ability to arrest for low-level offenses. In fact, it actually strengthens it. One of the things we actually do see, and one of the things that was exempted from the bill, you can actually be arrested for resisting arrest. No predicate crime, but for resisting arrest. That was actually left unscathed by any sort of legislative priority. What wasn't unscathed was able to take somebody in for failing to change lanes. And that's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The last delegate the committee is going to call to testify is Mr. Marco Roberts. There were a handful of others who had signed up to speak. I must apologize for having a hard cutoff, but I would encourage you to seek out the individual members of the committee individually and speak to us. I will make myself available and would love to have a more in-depth conversation with you, but I spoke with the chairman and this will be a hard cutoff because we have to get our subcommittees and start doing work.
Mr. Chairman, JIS SD7, you may just want to inform them that there will be virtual testimony available this evening.
Oh, fantastic. Do you know what time?
Well, I think we'll decide that here momentarily, but just let them know that there will be virtual testimony available for them to join via Zoom call, and they can still see their SD committee member to make sure they get that information and join at that time. It's going to be mentioned later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Question, Chair?
Yes.
Earlier you mentioned somebody by name, Lacey Lowry. She has not got to speak. You mentioned her in the, on deck.
I have here on an individual seat.
A while ago you were speaking, you said on deck, blah, 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 and Lacey Lowry. She never got to speak. I don't know how you know.
Mr. Chair.
Well, was Lacey in the room raising her hand? Okay, without objection, we'll take Lacey after Marco.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you. So my name is Marco Roberts. I'm here with SD6 delegate. I'm also the state chair for Lockhart Republicans of Texas, and I'll be speaking on behalf of them today, as well as for myself. I'm speaking here for a consolidated due process, making that a legislative priority. You have arguably more than one priority on this proposal, but whether you break it up or keep it as one, we want to express support for this and any resolution that furthers the restriction on civil asset forfeiture, if not by prohibition of state confiscation of private property without being found guilty of having committed a crime. And also in support of what is referred to often here as the Sandra Bland Act. I know it's not referred to specifically, but the idea behind it. Our party, unlike our Democratic opposition, is the only party that is in a position to defend due process which is not just a constitutional mandate, it is also a foundational element of our strong representative form of government based on the rule of law. And as we have seen in the last few weeks, without this, we don't just have a mob rule, but we also have abuse and rule by the strongest, not the just. Yet in our own state of Texas, people are being deprived of their liberty without having committed a jailable offense. And in some cases worse, they are being deprived of very major portions of their personal property without ever having been put on trial or found guilty of having committed a crime. While law enforcement agencies have, in some cases, pursued policies to profit from this. 2 of every 10 cases in Texas did not result in a related criminal charge against a property owner or possessor. And in one county, half of them did not, so you know what that county is doing. In about 40% of the cases of civil asset forfeiture, no one had the property taken from them, that had the property taken from them was found guilty of a crime connected to the seizure at all. And of course, we have the well-known case of Sandra Bland. But there also have been others, as there was a case just north of Houston, where a mother of 2 was taken to jail, and all she was doing was looking for a toy for her child that dropped on the side of the road, and she was going by very slow. She was stopped by the cop. The cop had a history of being abusive, didn't like the fact that she was asking why this is happening, and was taken to jail that very day with the kids screaming and crying. So this must be a legislative priority because it is a sound issue, it is a good issue that any Texan can support, and one that grievously affects many Texans. So I and LCR Texas ask that you make this a legislative priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, did you have a motion?
Yes, let me use my outside voice since I'm not near a microphone. I would like to move that we only have 3 speakers signed up to speak after the cutoff. I would like to move that we allow them to speak.
Any discussion?
Didn't we vote on that just for all of them?
In essence, yes. Ready for a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
The nays have it.
Really? I don't agree with that.
Okay, show of hands. Show of hands.
For all in favor?
All in favor of allowing the 3 to speak?
Excuse me, that is actually out of order.
I apologize. Point of order, can you clarify the vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the remaining speakers, and raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Okay, 1710, they will be allowed to speak.
Mr. Chairman, was there anyone online that could vote?
That will be handled later on, I'll explain.
Are we ready to proceed with the last 3?
Yes.
The committee calls James Raines. Or is it Jaime? I can't read it. Raines, R-A-I-M-E-S.
He's not in the room.
Okay. Then we go to K-A-H-A-S. Stuff. Callis. Please state your SD delegate status and issue you plan to speak on.
Well, my name is Stephen Callis. I'm from SD8, and I am indeed a delegate. I'd like to address 2 specific issues, and to be honest, I did not see anything online to indicate where you're at on these. So I'd like to speak in favor of finding a legislative priority that the legislature should determine a replacement for property tax. They need to find another method to fund state operations. They're bankrupting their people, and you can never own your property if you have to pay tax on it every year in order to stay there. Second thing, for the last several sessions, we've had constitutional carry listed as a platform plank and a legislative priority, And I want to make sure that we keep it there so the legislatures are reminded that we haven't forgotten. This is an expectation. They need to get it done before the state flips, unless of course that's what they want. Thank you, and I'll yield the remainder of my time.
Lacey Lowry, delegate for Senate District 3. I want to speak in favor of abolishing abortion. I know 2 conventions ago we adopted the strong language, and then 4 years ago, 2 years ago, we added in other language. And I want to give a different perspective. I've watched different people supporting abolition of abortion give statistics and experience, but for mine, I'm a homeschool mom. And so while I'm homeschooling, I watch session. I wear my headset, I'm watching all the committees, I'm watching the floor because I want to educate myself. And I open these discussions at home with my children because if we want them to be involved, if we want them to be educated, they have to know what's going on. And so I sat through the very lengthy HB 896 to abolish abortion by Representative Tinderholt. Very long. They did not allow the vote out of the committee. So, because for the babies, unborn babies to have equal protection under the law, it was going to criminalize the mother. So I went to my then 13-year-old daughter without telling her what I thought. I wanted to know, because this is the next generation. We're paving the way. And what we set now is what very possibly can be later. And I asked her, well, what's worse? The doctor performing the abortion or the mother who is allowing the murder of her own baby? And she said, well, Mom, that's her baby, and she's making the decision to rip that baby apart. This is from a 13-year-old. And I'm sorry, but that's wisdom. And sometimes we need to listen to our kids because they make it so much more simple than what we all do. And so I'm a strong stance for abolishing abortion. I don't waver on it. I hope you guys come out very strong and we send a message. Let Texas send a strong message right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. The last one I have on this list is a Chad, I believe, Green.
Wearing his name on his shirt.
Please take your
Yes, I do that often. My name's Chad Green. I'm from SD8, and I am a delegate. I just would like you to give due attention to constitutional carry. We do need to have that on our platform, spelled out on our platform. I don't know anything else that talks more about our inheritance as American citizens, and we need to make sure that we're putting the right emphasis on that. Texas, we need to change our laws on this stuff. So I'm really asking you to add your voice to this and give it the attention it needs. Thank you very much.
One of the last names when I called it, the man wasn't present, now he is in the room. Do we want to allow him to proceed? Yes. Yes. Mr. James Raines. Please take your SD number. SD delegate status and the issue you plan to speak on.
Yes, sir. Hi, everyone. My name is James Raines. I'm with SD 15 from here in Harris County. And I just wanted to speak to the first, or the priority that appears currently first on the list, the consolidated due process priority, and echo some of the sentiments that were expressed by some of my colleagues in support of including strong language in opposition to the practice of civil asset forfeiture in that language. I think this is very important. This is a topical issue. This is something that we can get done this next legislative session, and I think that's important for this committee, because we need to look at what we can accomplish in addition to the things that we think define us as a party, like Second Amendment, anti-abortion language. That's going to be in there, but we also need to look at what can get done. And I think civil asset forfeiture is one of those really low-hanging fruits that Democrats and even a lot of, Republicans and even a lot of Democrats can agree on. So please consider strengthening that language. Make it clear that we are in opposition to the government being able to take your property without due process. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for hearing me out, and thank you for allowing me to speak, even though I'm a little late.
Thank you so much. Includes our delegate testimony. That includes our.
We're not permitted to ask.
No, that was
Fine.
No, it's great. I love delegate testimony, don't get me wrong, but I also love committees that can run on time. And we're actually way ahead of where we had planned about 2 weeks ago. Well, yes, because before we had all of the Mayor Turner intervention, et cetera, this committee today would likely go on to about 10 o'clock tonight. So the fact that we've been able to listen to some astounding delegate testimony over the past couple of days is really a credit to the work y'all pulled together very, very quickly, and to them in having this passionate testimony. I really appreciate that. The grassroots is obviously where I'm from. Okay, are you ready to see how the vote came out? And I have actually emailed you screenshots of this, so you can look on your own computers, but I'll hook up the video to here so we can kind of all see it together here. I don't think it'll affect you.
You sure?
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I don't think we lost Paul. Still got Paul. He may not be on the screen now, but.
I'm here.
Okay, he's still there.
All right.
As the projector is warming up, I don't want to take time for the projector to warm up. The top vote getter. Microphone, sorry. And while the projector is warming up, maybe I can say what we've got ahead. We're gonna get these results. When you're listening to these, listen for the ones that were in your committee, because that's where we're headed next. We're gonna break into subcommittees for a very short time to work on the wording a little bit more. We're gonna come back here at 1:30. 1:30, not very much time to work on it. At 1:30, we're gonna have a quick combining of the three committees back and what their final language is. We will adjourn until tonight, no later than 2 o'clock is the current plan. Okay, how many people can be back to their home, or if they're staying overnight, can be online by 7 o'clock tonight? Can I have a quick show of hands?
Mr. Chairman, leaving by what time?
2 o'clock today. How many can be back by about 7 o'clock tonight or shortly thereafter? Looks like most of you, relatively close. The plan is to reconvene online via Zoom at 7 o'clock to hear online testimony and to finish up any remaining edits. The way we'll do the edits is like I described earlier. After we adjourn, Bonnie and I will get a Google Doc put up online, send it to all of you with comment authority, not edit authority, comment authority. Please be sure you're commenting, and then via the Zoom call, we'll go through your comments, and we should be able to knock out that sort of an editing relatively quick tonight. And hopefully we'll hear at least about an hour of delegate testimony online and still go through the edits and be done by maybe 9 o'clock tonight online. Does that make sense as a plan going forward in this radically changed year? Okay? So with that, we've got some results. Oops, we don't have results yet. What's that?
Mr. Chairman, while that's warming up, point of information.
Yes.
So for the delegate testimony, can we please ensure that the how to do all that will be on the Texas GOP website?
On the Zoom call?
Correct, for the delegate testimony.
Or yes, and I think it's already up there, actually. I think that's already up there. There were training calls last night that were recorded, and delegates can do that. By the way, if we're not done by 2 o'clock, I'll have to leave at that point, because we've got an SRAC meeting. Okay? Okay, is everybody ready to look? Number one was, and pay attention for your committee. Number one was emergency powers. No surprise there. Number two, constitutional carry. Number three, religious freedom. Number four, prohibiting taxpayer-funded lobbying. Number five, abolition of abortion. Number six, equal parenting. Number seven, replacing the property tax with the consumption tax. Number eight, consolidated due process. Number nine, parental rights. Number 10, children and gender. Number 11, school choice. Number 12, Texas abolition strategy. Number 13, abolish the property tax. Number 14, electric grid. Number 16, bail reform. And the bubble, the lagniappe, were monument protection, the 10-day rule, election citizenship verification, decriminalizing delinquent tolls, and E-Verify. And those that did not make the bubble were transparency in medical billing, bond voting, children and medical health, elected official ethics. I think we just gave up on that. Small amounts of cannabis penalties, Sandra Bland Act, although I think that one was up higher in a different form. Zero-based budgeting and impeccable ethics of the elected officials. That's the one we gave up on.
Okay. Are you
I sent the screenshots of all of these to all y'all's email addresses. Have y'all gotten that yet?
Yes.
Okay. At least one or two people on the committee that those are being handled in. And which committee again was it that had the emergency powers? That was State Affairs, okay. And Gail, I don't remember which one you were on. Were you on State Affairs?
No, I was on Justice.
Okay, you might suggest your language to them real quick.
I've already given it to
Oh,
her.
great, okay. So with that, 1:30. Let's make it 1:45, but be back on time. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry. In the order, there were two that seemed to be the same thing. Replace property tax with consumption tax and abolish property tax. The two primary things that came out of our subcommittee were a hodgepodge of reform the current system and then replace the property tax system with a consumption tax. So it seems there are two duplicative items in here, at least by the title.
We can't go backwards. We can't go backwards at this point, okay?
Well, is there clarity as to which belongs to which actual resolutions? Because based on those titles, they appear duplicative.
These titles are based on the document we've been working on. Okay, so find them on that document and go from that accordingly.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. There were some minor adjustments to those titles as members had requested. Who's that?
Yep,
Yes.
Sean Cheevan, SC17. There's been some electronic chatter about potentially combining the two pro-life plans into one to decrease confusion to the delegation. If that comes to pass, do we take the 21st item and bubble that up into the lanyard?
Yes, the 16th would become the 15th, and the 21st would become the 20th.
Thanks for the clarification.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Secretary SD30, can we not accomplish the same thing with the property tax issue as well?
Yes, absolutely. But I implore you, we want the bulk of what you're doing when you're wordsmithing. Do not focus on the grammar and the syntax and the commas and the semicolons. Focus on shortening it. We want to give clear instructions on what we want the legislators to do, not how to do it. Anything that's in the category of how to do it essentially is wasted. Okay? So let's be back here at 1:45, but be sharp. Be early, if anything. Thank you very much.
Mark, we have
send it again.